Oh, today's going to be a good one. Coming up, an electrifying tale about a fateful encounter between a musical prodigy and the devil himself. Set against the backdrop of the American South, the encounter boldly turns into a fiery, foot-stomping duel. The musician's life is on the line. If he loses this bout, the devil, he gets his soul forever. It's an epic battle, good versus evil, and an irresistible blend of storytelling and musical prowess, and a classic song that really has crossed over to every genre, every generation, and it had a swear word you didn't normally hear on the radio. The story's coming up next on Professor of Rock, brought to you by Zenny. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you remember rooting for Tom or Jerry or Wile E. Coyote or Roadrunner or even Daffy Duck or Bugs Bunny, depending on your personality, meep, meep, you're going to dig this channel of deep musical nostalgia. Make sure to subscribe below to get the latest and greatest interviews and videos. Click the red button, click the bell, all that good stuff. Check out our exclusive content on Patreon as well. That helps us to keep it a daily channel. We are self-funded. You know, in the rich tapestry of American musical history, certain songs stand out as iconic representations of a genre's spirit and mastery and reach across the aisle, if you will, to fans of every musical genre and style and become true standards of the global songbook. So today, we enter another one of these masters into our show, The New Standards. Songs that go beyond genre or fad or generation, songs that are monumental touchstones in our culture. I gotta say, The Devil Went Down to Georgia by Charlie Daniels Band is an outstanding example of such a song. The truth is, this song, it's beloved by everyone. No matter if you're a headbanger or a cowboy or a new waver or a punk or a mod or a straight edger or whatever, everybody can appreciate this song. Narrated by one of America's great storytellers, the late Charlie Daniels. The Devil Went Down to Georgia is a fusion of southern rock, country, and bluegrass that transcends mere entertainment, delving into the age-old theme of the struggle between good, a boy named Johnny, and evil, the devil himself.
Down to Georgia, he was looking for a soul to steal. He was in a bind because he was way behind and he was willing.
Charlie Daniels was born in the Tar Heel country of Wilmington, North Carolina. When Charlie was a young boy, he dealt with a serious case of the measles that damaged his vision. In order to see, he had to wear what would disparagingly be called Coke bottle glasses. This led to constant bullying around the schoolyard. Charlie was heavily influenced by Pentecostal gospel singing, bluegrass, and rhythm and blues growing up. He also loved those good old Western movies.
Let her go as soon as you walk through that door. Come on, I'll hold my fire.
Before his teenage years, Charlie was already skilled with many of the stringed instruments, the guitar, the fiddle, the banjo, and the mandolin. He began his career as a member of the bluegrass band Misty Mountain Boys. This was in the mid-50s. He learned to rock in the 60s and formed his own band named the Rockets, later changing the moniker to the Jaguars after putting out a mild hit with an instrumental of the same name. It wasn't long after the demise of the Jaguars that Charlie became a sideman, writing and playing for some very notable performers such as Jerry Jackson and Elvis Presley. Of his days as a session man, Charlie referred to himself as a gopher of the music industry. One of his actual responsibilities was personally delivering Bob Dylan's master tapes from Nashville to New York City. Dylan was impressed with Charlie's workmanship and his prowess as a guitarist. That admiration led to Charlie playing on Dylan's landmark LP Nashville Skyline in 1969. He also performed on the 2 follow-up albums for Dylan from there. Lay across my big breast bed. Charlie had a big breakout in 1973 with his single Uneasy Rider that climbed to number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100. Uneasy Rider, that showcased Charlie's unique way of narrating over a guitar line. The song was a dark comedy that centered around the clash between the counterculture of the 60s and the conservative traditions of the South. It was a spin-off of the movie Easy Rider. Starred Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, and Jack Nicholson.
Oh, I've got a helmet.
In Charlie's narrative, the long-haired Uneasy Rider was the protagonist tooling along in his Chevrolet in the middle of a cross-country road trip to L.A. Now, just as he crossed the Mississippi line, he had a flat tire and pulled over in a small town to get his tire fixed. Drama ensues when the uneasy rider enters a redneck-looking joint called the Dewdrop Inn for a beer while waiting for a mechanic to give him a new tire at a nearby garage so that he could, get back on the road.
This little bar, kind of a redneck-looking joint called the Dewdrop Inn.
Worried about what the locals might think of his long hair, he tucks his locks under his hat and orders a beer at the bar. Suddenly, 5 big dudes come strolling in with a drunk female and some fella with green teeth. Sensing that he should leave the bar to avoid trouble, one of the big dudes commands him to tip his hat to the drunk woman as he walks by. And when he does, all his hair falls out from underneath his hat.
Tip your hat to this lady, son, and when I did, all that hair fell out from under.
The rest of the song details how the uneasy rider gets out of the jam with some fast thinking and a preemptive strike, kicking old green teeth right in the knee.
Pretty quick, so I just reached out and kicked old green teeth right in the knee.
The green teeth part, that part is hilarious, that part of the song. It's actually inspired by a real-life character from Charlie's past. The guy Charlie knew actually had so much tartar on his teeth were covered with a permanent green stain. Probably a little too much pinching tobacco between the cheek and gums.
Antioch Baptist Church, and I ain't even got a garage. You can call home and ask my wife.
In 1979, Charlie and the 5 members of the Charlie Daniels Band were working on the group's 7th album, Million Mile Reflections. With the album near completion, Charlie considered the book of songs that were ready for mastering, and he came to the conclusion that they needed a fiddle song. The fiddle was an important instrument for Charlie, went back to his childhood. Over his 50-year career, his fans loved it when Charlie played the fiddle during his live concerts. Charlie Daniels had a fierce style that created a dynamic, raw energy that separated him from all the other fiddle players. Charlie, he pressed the bow much harder on the strings when he played, and the result was a much grittier sound. So for the fiddle song to give the album its crowning cut, Charlie found inspiration in a book that he had admired as a teenager. The Stephen Vincent Benet poem, The Mountain Whippoorwill. It was published in 1925. Stephen Vincent Benet is perhaps best known for his American Civil War narrative that landed him the Pulitzer Prize in 1929. Now, in The Mountain Whippoorwill, Benet told of a heroic come-from-behind victory by Billy Jim, an unknown boy. He overcame the reigning lords of the community to win the Great Fiddler's Prize. The storyline was conceived after Benet read an article in the Literary Digest that chronicled how a young man named Lo Stokes upset the revered veteran champion fiddlin' John Carson at the 1924 Atlanta Fiddlers Convention. Written with the wry charm of Southern authors like Mark Twain and Thomas Bangs Thorpe, The Mountain Whippoorwill featured a collage of really humorous Southern dialect with phrases like, everything's as lazy as an old hour dog, and he could fiddle down a possum from a mile-high tree. The whimsical story of how an orphan child, Billy Jim, who won the Essex County Fiddlers show playing with a fiddle made of mountain laurel. Billy Jim's victory was a huge upset, and when he won, hell broke loose in Georgia, according to the poem. That became the impetus for The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
'Cause hell's broke loose in Georgia and the devil deals the cards. If you win, you...
Following Benet's lead, Charlie stuck with Georgia as the backdrop of his story. I mean, he liked the way that Georgia sounded off the tongue. To Charlie, the Peach State, it sounded more poetic than, say, The Devil Went Down to Tennessee or The Devil Went Down to North Carolina.
The devil went down to Georgia. He was looking for a soul to steal.
Charlie went back to his gift of lyrical narration, and he started to write a song about Johnny, a gifted young fiddle player that faced off against the biggest villain imaginable, the devil himself, who was desperate to make a deal to fill his quota of capturing souls. The devil was so desperate, he challenged Johnny to a bet. A fiddle of gold against Johnny's soul that he was the better fiddle player.
To give the devil his due, I bet a fiddle of gold against your soul because I think I'm better than you.
Now, Johnny takes the bet, even though it might be considered a sin to gamble with Satan, especially in the South. What emerged was an epic battle of good against evil. Johnny against Lucifer.
And he said, I'll start this show, and fire flew from his fingertips as he rosined up his bow.
The devil, he goes first, and he of course cheats by adding a band of demons to join in, and it sounded something like this. Now, Charlie Daniels' idea was for the devil's turn, was the devil just blowing smoke. They'd make it sound like a bunch of noise with no musicality to it. Studio engineer Paul Grupp overdubbed 6 fiddle tracks to produce The Band of Demons. On one of those tracks, Charlie used an 8-string fiddle, which is strung, as I understand it, like a mandolin, with 2 strings in place of 1. As we get into the duel, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses I always wear. With the holidays coming up, there's no better place to get eyewear for your entire family at the most cost-effective and quality way. Just click on our info button right up here to get up to 80% off regular retail prices. To illustrate the fiery, hellish hiss in the solo, Joel Tax Di Gregorio, he had the genius idea to run a guitar pick across the strings of an acoustic piano. And the results were an incredibly chilling moment in the song that masterfully evoked an edge-of-the-seat tension in this conflict. During the final mixdown of the track, the Devil solo, it sounded vicious and angry. The creative process to achieve a theatrical projection was something that Charlie had never experienced in any of his earlier work. And then came Johnny's turn to show what kind of player he was. He acknowledges the Devil has some skill, but he confidently fights back. Talking a little smack in the process, Johnny tells the Devil to sit back in that chair right there and let me show you how it's done.
You're pretty good, old son, but sit down in that chair right there and let me show you how it's done.
For Johnny's counterattack, Charlie went back to his roots, performing popular square dancing refrains like he used to when he played square dances in North Carolina. He borrowed from a series of old-time favorites to create a spirited medley. Fire on the Mountain, House of the Rising Sun, and Chicken in the Bread Pan Picking Out Dough, from a bluegrass gem made famous by Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys.
Chicken in the bread pan, packing out Joe Grand, and we get dog by no child, no hurry up, boys, and don't move. Chicken in the bread pan, packing out dough.
Johnny's fiddle playing, it's superior, and the Devil could only bow his head because he knew that he'd been beat. He conceded defeat by laying the golden fiddle on the ground right at Johnny's feet.
He knew that he'd been beat, and he laid that golden fiddle on the ground at Johnny's feet.
And of course, this is the best part. Johnny, cocky as ever, responds by challenging the Archfiend to a rematch. Devil, just come on back if you ever want to try again.
I done told you once, you son of a bitch, I'm the best there's ever been. He played Fire on the Mountain Run.
The Devil went down to Georgia. It was just too good. It had to be a single. So Charlie Daniels agreed to a radio edit where the SOB was softened to Son of a Gun.
If you ever want to try again, because I told you once, you son of a gun, I'm the best there's ever been.
More on that in just a second. Now, from time to time, Charlie used to get flack from friends and fans about the fiddle-off between Johnny and the Devil. Some thought that the Devil's portion was actually better than Johnny's. Now, whenever he heard that opinion, Charlie insisted from an artist standpoint, there's no competition between the Devil's part and Johnny's part. He said, if you really listen and dissect the Devil's instrumental part, there's really nothing there. Just a bunch of noise and confusion. There's no soul or skill in what the Devil played. Then he added some retrospect. He said, you can't beat the Devil without the Lord. I didn't include that in the words of the song, but I should have.
He knew that he'd been beat, and he laid that golden fiddle on the ground at Johnny's feet.
The Devil went down to Georgia, with its skillful brand of country rock bluegrass and the intrigue of the supernatural, and enthralled radio listeners on a wide range of formats around the world. Such a big song, like I said. In the US, the single went to the top of the country charts. It crested at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100 on the pop charts. It went to number 1 in Canada. It was top 15 in Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and the UK. Just a worldwide hit. Charlie treated his band right by giving all 5 of the CDB members a piece of the songwriting credit. Tom Crane on guitar and vocals, Taz D. Gregorio on keyboards and vocals, Fred Edwards on drums, percussions, James W. Marshall on drums and percussion, and Charlie Hayward on bass. Johnny's Triumph was a big win for Charlie Daniels and the Charlie Daniels Band. In addition to the mega success as a radio hit, the song caught the attention of one of Charlie Daniels' heroes, violinist virtuoso Itzhak Perlman. He contacted Charlie and lavished him with props for his performance on The Devil Went Down to Georgia. I said, I just want you to know that my children and I are fans of yours. Just really cool. Getting that kind of praise from Itzhak Perlman was the ultimate compliment for Charlie, who regarded Perlman as the best fiddle player there ever was. Not long after the release of The Devil Went Down to Georgia, there were outside claims that the song was a takeoff of a Lonesome Fiddle Blues by the grandfather of hillbilly jazz, Vassar Clements. Charlie insisted that this just was not true. He added that there is no correlation between the two songs, even though Clements is also one of Charlie's favorite fiddle players. The music for Devil Went Down to Georgia was entirely developed by Charlie Daniels and the Charlie Daniels Band. After it came out, The Devil Went Down to Georgia won the award for Best Country Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal at the 22nd Annual Grammy Awards that happened in 1980.
Well established very early in the game that this was going to be something special.
More than simply a hit single, The Devil Went Down to Georgia, it's a pop culture allegory. In the 1980 movie Urban Cowboy, the song is used in a pivotal scene where the hero, Bud Davis, played by John Travolta, he squares off in a dramatic competition with the villain, Wes Hightower, played by Scott Glenn. With Charlie Daniels playing the song on stage at Mickey Gilley's iconic nightclub in Pasadena, Texas, The Devil Went Down to Georgia is the soundtrack for a montage of Bud's come-from-behind triumph over Hightower. Bud not only shocks the crowd by ousting Hightower in the mechanical bull riding contest, he also wins back his girl, Sissy, of course portrayed by Deborah Winger. The huge popularity of the Urban Cowboy soundtrack, anchored by The Devil Went Down to Georgia, was a catalyst for country music's crossover that was prominent in the early 80s. I'm talking Kenny Rogers, Juice Newton, and the like.
Lady.
Now, in 1993, there was a sequel to The Devil Went Down to Georgia. That was released by violinist extraordinaire Mark O'Connor on his album entitled Heroes. The sequel, that's narrated by Johnny Cash, it boasts Charlie Daniels on fiddle, Marty Stewart as Johnny, and Travis Tritt as the Devil. Johnny is now a grown-up man with a wife and infant son. The Devil returns, convinced that sinful pride will be Johnny's undoing, so he takes back the golden fiddle and forces Johnny to practice with his old worn-out fiddle for the rematch. The same fiddle that Johnny used to beat the Devil in their first match, though. Although the lyrics in the sequel don't specifically reveal the winner of the rematch, the music video clearly shows that Johnny is still the best that's ever been, and he beats the hell out of the Devil.
But Johnny is the best that's ever been.
The Devil Went Down to Georgia also has a share of covers. There's no doubt about that. Zach Brown Band played a very cool version of the song during a live performance at the CMAs in 2009. New metal band Korn reinterpreted The Devil Went Down to Georgia, included it on the rendition, the 2019 album, The Nothing. The Devil is played by lead Korn vocalist Jonathan Davis, while rapper Yellow Wolf plays the role of Johnny. Korn actually released their cover in July of 2020. It's actually 3 weeks after the death of Charlie Daniels. The band donated all the proceeds to the Awakening Youth Foundation. It's a nonprofit organization that supports youth who have lost a parent from divorce, death, or other traumatic disruptions. The song is also featured in the game Guitar Hero 3 Legends of Rock, introducing the track to a whole new generation. That's how my kids found it. But actually, the way the makers of the game used the song, it actually rubbed Charlie the wrong way. Charlie actually took exception to the message and the imagery that the game projected, and kind of misrepresented the lighthearted novelty aspect of the song. In the video game, the player has to compete with the devil, but the player may not win. In fact, to make it more challenging, the horn guitar playing devil often wins. Charlie actually didn't grant the rights to Guitar Hero to license the song. The licensing was handled through a publishing deal that Charlie had no control over. If he had had control, he would never have allowed the use of the song in that fashion.
The devil
Since its release in 1979, The Devil Went Down to Georgia continues to be an irresistible standard in the pop music lexicon. Actually, as of 2021, the sizzling, foot-stomping fiddle rouser, with its dramatic narrative, it's sold over 2.5 million downloads. Remember, my dad had the 45, and it was one of only a few times that I got away with saying a swear word, or singing a swear word. When the son of a bitch part would come on, my dad and I would sing it to the top of our lungs. What a great line. I always hate it when the radio edits it. You know, when Charlie Daniels died, he passed along 50 years of inspired music with riveting musicianship and spellbinding narration. The Devil Went Down to Georgia, definitely Charlie's opus. Classic masterpiece of story and song that really transcends genre and the literary arts. Charlie Daniels, he was just one of a kind. As a musical storyteller, you might say, in the words of Johnny, he was the best that ever was. Make sure to leave us a comment about Charlie Daniels and this classic song, Devil Went Down to Georgia. What are your memories of this song? What are your memories of when it came out and the swear word and the way it's been used in pop culture? Let's have a great discussion below. If you like our content, we do invite you to subscribe below. Love to have you as part of our content. Till next time, 3 chords and the truth.